It's very difficult to speak. There was a fellow who wanted to get a job as a rabbi, upstate New York. As I read a story, he went to this meet the board of the shul, and in the interview, from the questions, they realized they called him actually a shachnik. Well, he is to the right, they're to the left, and he realized he's not going to get the job. So he said, but he wants to just share with the people of the board before he leaves. He wants to share with something he witnessed himself. So he says, one time he was by Rav Shach in the apartment, and the surgeon came to remove something from his foot, and he could do it in the apartment. So the surgeon wanted to apply the anesthetic. So Rav Shach asked, after that anesthetic, will I be, groggy or coherent after this procedure? He said, you'll be groggy. He said, be groggy? I can't do the anesthetics. He says, Rabbi, after the surgery. He says, do the surgery. He says, but I have to cut you with a knife. He said, it's okay. He says, I have to say shir. He needs his mind to be lucid, be able to be coherent. He said, look, if I'll budge, he will hold me down. Anyway, he said he was there at the surgery. Rav Shach didn't flinch. Went through the whole thing. Now I remember when Nebuch, 2 helicopters collided in Eretz Yisrael, 64 soldiers died. That day, Rav Shach canceled everything. He sat in his apartment and he cried and he cried and he cried. Did he know these Yidden? No. Were they religious? No. They were Yidden. Plus he cried. This person said, gentlemen, I'm proud to be a Shachnik. We can't fathom. We don't have the kalim to digest the pain, the tsunami of pain that happened Thursday. We all experienced it, felt it. We can't. But we can possibly also look some things that we can take from it. Look at the parasha. The parasha that week was Parashas Emor. What does it say? In the Parashas Hamayadim, it says Pesach Shavuos, and it talks about leket shikram peah, the different things that go to the poor man. You drop a stalk, if you get a sheaf, you give peah. Rashi says, Chazal say, well, what's that doing in the middle of Parashat Mayadim? So Rashi, Chazal, that if a person gives tzedakah properly to the poor man, leket shikram peah, it's like he built the Beis HaMikdash and brought kabbanis. Leket shikram peah is passive. You don't do anything. You dropped a stalk. Don't pick it up. Just leave it there. Shikha, I forgot the sheaf. Leave it there. Peah, designated a part for the poor man. That's it, leave it there. All passive. And you already compare it to building Beis HaMikdash. What's the biggest mitzvah that we can fathom? Involvement, putting effort in, toil, build Beis HaMikdash, a house, Hashchina. We would think that's Doicha Shabbos, should override Shabbos. So Torah says, no, can't override Shabbos. Kabbanis, what's carbon? Kabbalah, this somewhat simple understanding is, you bring the animal, the blood goes on the Mizbeach. It's you. It's a place where you're supposed to be now, your blood on the Mizbeach, coming close to Kodesh Baruch Hu. What is that? The closest you could come to Hashem. Building Beis HaMikdash, bring Kabbanis, and on the Parashas Mayadim, which is talking about Mayad, is the time you meet with HaKadosh Baruch Hu through simcha, joy in the Beis HaMikdash. And that's what it is to give the tzedakah inadvertently to the poor man. There's a kin to this Beis HaMikdash. It's unreal. Think about it. That's what you're doing when you give tzedakah to the poor man, building Beis HaMikdash. Now what about if I actually physically go and do actively tzedakah to the poor man? I'm building 2 Beit HaMikdash. I mean, you can think about what's happening in such a situation. The Sefer HaChinuch in Kuf Chav Daled talks about Malika. When you press your thumb into the neck of the animal, of the bird. So the Sefer HaChinuch, you know why? We don't have mitzvahs, but we try to take something glean from it. It's a poor man bringing a carbon, bringing his bird. If I have to go find a knife, it's going to take a minute or two, and I have to sharpen it, check it, bite it, and then check the bird. That's a minute of the poor man's time. No, we go to Malika. Kayan, just stick your thumb into its neck. What do you mean? Shkita, you turn the neck around. No, you don't have to turn the neck around because that takes about 3 seconds. And that time is the poor man. He needs to get back to work. So we're going to do on the spot for the poor man, Malika, no knife, no turning neck, let the poor man go back to get to his work. The sensitivity to the poor man. That's the covet that we're giving the ani, and that's building a Beis Hamikdash. This is the time of Sfira. We're talking about Noach Kavod Zelazeh. I'm giving cover to another Yid. Talmid Rabbi Akiva. The G'dai Le'olam, give cover to another Yid next to me. Many times we could say a good morning to the person. A lot of times we have chesed and kiruv organizations working, and the person, you bring someone into the shul, someone not from, we go say Shalom Aleichem, make him warm. What about the person next to me? It's a Shomer Shabbos, it's a Shomer Torah Mitzvahs. I don't even notice it. Not Chalila, I don't ignore him, I just don't even register. He's a from Yid Torah Mitzvahs. I could say, good morning, how are you? I can make a phone call to somebody I didn't see in shul once. Simple things we could do for COVID. There will be this is this manosphere. It's right, and that mitzvah is written right after Shavuos, which we prepare for Kabbalah Satori for COVID, and that's what we're learning. The poor man's covered, another Yid's covered. He's Aman Nivchar, another Yid, and then what about Gedolei Yisrael? Many times, ich hold this from them Gadol. I don't hold it this Gadol. I hold it this Gadol. Because in my understanding, I'm just saying how sometimes we view things. And we paskenois covered things. It's amazing things how we live our lives, and we determine that we're the shoftim, so to say, on the matzav of what we could do. The timing is such of covered, and Rahman al such a tragedy. It brought much covered, how much we feel with the grief of other Yidden. We felt the pain. I mean, it just can't fathom the pain. But it's not just the tsar that we feel about others. What do we ever experience the simcha when another Yid has a simcha? I'm so happy for him. He just got this new whatever it was he got. I should be besimcha. We're humans. It's a resayed. But we could try to experience also that this tremendous person, he's enjoying his. If we could work on such a concept, I think it'll be more desirous that for ourselves we'll feel also growing Yidden together to have such aspirations. That's one Nakuda. Another Nakuda is also we were engulfed. It was like a tsunami. The pain coming at that time. It's just too much for us, Kalim, to be able to digest it. It's on the spot as it's happening. In the old days, you hear about it. Sorrow would be after 2-3 weeks. The intensity of the pain was somewhat less. Now it's just we don't know how to use the Kalim for it. But maybe also we can use this as a catalyst to look at Toiv. Hakar Toiv to Banisham for Chesed. There's so much more Chesed taking place in our very lives. I listened to Bitachon Hotline. It said a very powerful word. It says where our whole mindset is negative. I mean, what do you put on the news? Bad news. That's a sensation. Not going to take the good news but you're not going to make much sensational when you say, the sun came up today. It was a beautiful sunny day. Look at the cheery world that we live in. Look at the beautiful flowers and trees. We're not focused on good things happening, on so much good that's taking place around us. It's never when we have that, and we pass the bad news along, and we have to get involved in it. If we would stop to think, if a person would go along and sit down and make a cheshbon of how much toiv takes place, we'd really be engulfed with a tsunami of toiv. It's just that we're not even focused on the toiv. My back wasn't hurting today. I was able to see, eat. I was in the hospital, go to the hospital, look through the wards, who's there, people our ages, all different ages, people in the hospital, what they're suffering through, what people are going through. Our focus is all that way. We've talked about this once before, just to share this again, the story, but I think you'll bring home the Nakuda, that the fellow used to go to the hospital to take people, bring them back, the people visiting, and he said, try to cheer them up and talk to them, and they would respond. He felt it was a Gvaldig Chesed, and one person he was talking to, and the person was mumbling. He thought he was davening. He said, I'm sorry. He said, no, I'm not davening. He said, I go to the hospital, I visit my father, who's terribly sick, and it breaks me. But I can't live in misery like that. And I talk to myself and start to recognize how much toiv is taking place in my world. Yes, there's terrible things happening, but there's so much good, and I focus on the good, and it changes my life. Rosh Reb Chaim Stein once told my father, he said, in Sanhedrin Kufhei over there, it talks about a person that he lives, and he's able to designate his time. Chaim Bashiv, his son who was sick, how can he function? He sets aside a certain time of the day for the tzara, but he looks at the rest of life, and he has to be invigorated and continue his chayim. And this driver was taken by this message, and he was quiet. So the person asked him, you look like you're thinking about something. He says, we have a son that was off the derech. He's off the derech, and it engulfs us. We just consumed with it, we can't live. It's so terrible. And he asked him, do you have other children? He says, yes. Do they give you nachas? Yes. Do you focus on them? No. Well, why don't you shift and focus on this nachas you're getting from the kids? That is a terrible thing. He says, I never thought of that. He came home, he shared that message with his family, and the whole house changed. Every day they would come home and they would discuss the good things, what happened. And the whole shift, yes, not but they started to look at the good things in life. And the Pesach Seder was the most transformative. It was exciting. It was ecstatic. They never experienced like that because they were used to looking for Toiv and Haidah and thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So when it came to the biggest Haidah that we're Yidden, when he took us out of Mitzrayim, it was unbelievable. And the sun wasn't even there. He would pop in his head every couple hours. They didn't know if they could repeat such a Seder. The next night they were again, and the son joined for the Seder. At the end of Yom Tov, the son asked the father if he can go to shul with him. He said, yes. The way I'm dressed? Yes. He said, Todd, you know why I went off? No. He said, everyone talks about Yiddishkeit, so geschmack and it's so lebendig. I didn't see anybody doing Yiddishkeit because it's so geschmack and so lebendig. I said, we're nice people happy, but what's the excitement? So I left. I went to find it out there in the big world. I didn't find it there. I wasn't coming back. And I walked into the house, I saw Pesach, everybody was excited to say it. I said, this looks authentic, this is real. No, that's a fluke. So I figured I'll sit by the next night and see it's real. I'm back. You're right, the tourist, if you start thinking about it, but how much toiv? And if we start, the first word, wake up in the morning is Maida, first word. And you go through the brachas, Baruch Atah. My back's working, my eyes can see, I can get dressed, I can be warm. And then you hope Sukkah de Zimra is Sukkah de Zimra. If you get into it, every word is Azamra L'Kai B'Oidi, I sing to Hashem. Halal Hashem B'Chai. You get involved, you get excited. Yismach Yisrael. B'Oisav, Halal Shmai V'Machal. It's all exciting. Kol Neshima Neshima Talal. Now we know it means every breath of air. People never couldn't breathe. Neshima Neshima Talel. It's something to praise Hashem for, to thank Hashem for. It changes the whole mindset. And if we're able to do that, yes, we can't engulf all that nebuch pain, but we can use it as a catalyst to bring us to be appreciative of Chayim, of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, of who we are as Klal Yisrael, and to focus on Tov. And once we thank Hashem, we'll be thanking Hashem over and over. Because Moed Anil Fanecha Kol HaChes Asher Asisi Imadi Asher Ata Asid L'Asisi. We say that Friday night. If I'm thanking for the past, I'm going to be thanking for the future. It's a guarantee. And Hashem wants us to see the Tov. There's so much going on. And if through that we can commiserate, the Hashem should help, and that should know what Yarmilas are saying to die. Wake us up, we should have a schus to be zoited, that should come to this man of spirit, to Kabbalah Satira, and to Gulus and Yeshuas.